So, one day I went on Craigslist. I needed to buy my son a new car. Well, second-hand car, should I say. It was coming up to his 18th birthday, and I really wanted to get him one as a surprise. And after a while of looking, what do you know? I found one. It was a $2,000 Ford. It was a really nice looking car, plus it didn't have that many miles. I didn't have to drive too far either. Great. So, I started to contact the seller, but I couldn't seem to get him to respond. That was weird, but I guess you could say that was where the strange things only began. So when I first managed to contact him, it was via cell phone. I said, "Hello," and he responded, "Why the hell are you talking to me? Who are you?" in a strange, crony type of voice. I said, "Oh, sorry sir, have I got the right number? Are you the person selling the Ford car?" He said, "Yes, sorry. You have to excuse me, I have bipolar." Bipolar? I wasn't believing that for a second. I knew it was pure bullshit. But the car was so cheap and it was so close to my son's birthday. I had to buy him it. So I just had to. In the end, we arranged to meet out, not near me and not near him, sort of out of the way and more of a deserty type area. At first I thought this was a little sketchy, and I said, "Why have we got to drive out practically to the middle of nowhere?" Nowhere? No, this is where my second house is. Second house? I knew it was dodgy from that point, but I know I should have turned back and just said no and kept looking, but I was desperate. Hey, I didn't want to let my son down. So I agreed to meet him. After driving in some pretty barren deserts for what seemed like an eternity, with nothing, just tumbleweeds, I eventually stumbled on a little house. It was really strange looking, like it was out of an old ghost town, you know, like from one of them old western films. As I approached it, things got weirder still. I tried to contact the seller, but he wouldn't pick up. Then finally, after waiting outside for 10 minutes, I got a text, "Meet me round back, the front door's broken." I knew this was really strange, so I proceeded with caution. Just as I went to look in, through the window, I heard something in the back. But it was nothing, it must have just been an animal, right? I looked in through the window and I could see someone standing there, just motionless, staring out the window at me. I gestured away, but he didn't move. So I went up to the front door. "Hello? I believe you're the man I'm looking for." No response. That was weird. I went round the back. There was 2 more mannequins just standing there. This was really strange. I was starting to get freaked the hell out. So then I just bolted for my car. Then, just like that, the phone rang. I had to answer it just in case it was my son or somebody. It was him saying, "Why are you leaving so fast? I've got your car for you." There was no car all along. It was pure bullshit. I started driving the fuck out of there, not even looking back once. Later on, I found out just how dangerous that actually was. It turned out that what I thought were mannequins were actually dead bodies. He had a gun behind the door and was waiting for me to knock again. I'm just really lucky to be alive. I'd hate to think what could have possibly happened if I'd opened the door. I probably would have ended up like one of them. So I'm an avid hunter. I was looking for some new guns and gear on Craigslist. It took me a while to be able to find anything. Probably because I live in such a forested area. That was probably why it's hard to find any sellers close to me. Anyway, I didn't give up. Then I found this sab. Some guy was selling just what I wanted, a really nice hunting rifle and some good camo clothes. I spoke to him and we both agreed to meet him in the forest near where I live. That was even better, I didn't have to go anywhere to get this stuff. I always carry a revolver with me just for caution. Anyway, so I set it off to meet him. The location was pretty sketchy, it was in sort of a rocky area. It was pretty well known for snakes. It was really strange, this place. I didn't like it. I got strange jibes from it before I even went in there. So I was driving up there. I had to pull over quickly because the seller called me. I stopped my truck. It was dark now. I answered the phone. Hello? Hey man, you still want to do this deal? I know it's getting dark, but I'm just worried that I'm not going to be able to make it home in time. Oh no, don't worry man, I'm still coming. So I just got back in my truck, kept on driving. I noticed there was something weird with my truck. I couldn't really explain what it was. I finally got to the location then. There was nothing there, just a man standing there. I walked up to him, gave him the money, and just went to get back into my truck. Got back in, just as I looked in the tail light, there was about 5 other people, all in the forest, sort of forming a semicircle around me. They were really slowly moving, not thinking I could see them. So I just bolted it the hell out of there, not looking back. Oh shit, what's wrong with my truck? I can hardly drive this piece of shit. Not now. I kept on driving, getting the fuck out of there. What the fuck was that? I have no idea. I kept on driving till eventually I was out of that area. I called the cops. They come down and committed a massive search. And guess what? They found nothing. Well, I say nothing. They found one thing. They found a camping site right next to where our set was, where we had done the pickup. It was weird. There must have been at least 8 or 9 people camping there, the cops said to me. But there was no trace anyway. Even more scary is that once I'd started speaking to the cops, one of them told me, "Hey, what's that with your tyres? Do you know about that? You should really get that fixed, man. That's really dangerous." I looked back. To my horror, half of my tyres had been slit. I couldn't believe it. There was no way they'd done it when I'd done the transaction. Then it hit me. They'd been hit when I was about half a mile away from the seller, when I had to phone him up in the dark. So I needed to get a new table. Tables are quite expensive, or at least the type of size I was looking for. So I had to look around for quite a while until finding the seller. He seemed perfectly nice on the phone and agreed to meet him somewhere up in his apartment complex. He told me that there wasn't going to be a lot of other people in the apartment, just him maybe, because he could be renting it, but he doesn't think anybody else still lives there. Still lives there? That's weird. I found out that the building was abandoned, but he must have just bought it and lived out there. To be honest, it doesn't sound like that bad of an idea, all that space you could get. Anyway, I went up to go and contact the seller again. Then I saw him in person. He had crazy looking eyes, weird as fuck hair. He looked really out of his mind, really fucked up. It was really scary. Dirty, like he had never had a wash before. We'd met just outside his apartment building, and he said, "Hey man, you got the stuff?" I said, "Yeah, I've got the money. Can I at least see the table first?" Heck, I'm not going to hand over my money before I actually see the thing, am I? It might have been sketchy, but I'm not crazy. Anyway, as we went in, he seemed really agitated for some reason. He said, "Did you bring anyone with you?" "No. Why would I? It's not that big of a table really, and there's 2 of us, yeah?" At this point, he went absolutely berserk. He started kicking the things next to him, started just holding on his head, shaking it violently, just staring at me with such rage like I've never seen before. I was terrified at this point. I'd never seen anything like it. What had I said to make him go that angry? Then he just stood there. I went to head back when the lights went out. I went to reach for the door, sprint into it. It was locked. He was just laughing in the background. I couldn't believe it. I was trapped. No way out. Fuck, I'm done for. I didn't have any weapons. God knows what he's going to do to me. Just as I thought that, I heard it. More steps around me. There was at least 3 or 4 other guys in there. I looked and I had one chance and I just bolted for the window, got straight out of it and got the fuck in my truck. Just as I done that, I saw some eyes at the curtains, but then I saw some eyes in the other curtains upstairs, and downstairs. Holy shit. I sped about a mile away from there, called the cops. The cops went in armed. After they'd done their sweep and clear, they brought out 5 guys, including the crazy one, all of them armed. Apparently they found my guy, who I'd just spoken to, waiting in a closet about to shoot me with a pistol. The same was for the other guy upstairs. I was so lucky that nothing ever happened to me that day. I was on Craigslist looking to do some voluntary work to help out the old people. I knew this was a good thing to do, and I wanted to sort out my karma. Ever since my grandparents were ill and died, I always felt really sorry for elderly people, because I could see how much help they would need, and I knew that they'd really appreciate me coming out. So I looked on Craigslist to find anything. A lot of it was just people trying to get general work done, but then I found an elderly gentleman. He was living off in more of an isolated location, so he said that doing his necessities become quite a task for him, and with his old age, a lot of his friends and family had all died. From what I heard, he was completely lonely out there, and he had lots of work that needed doing to his house and other things, but mainly he needed help with necessities. I felt really sorry for him, so I decided that I was going to help him out. I ended up messaging him a few times. He didn't have a phone, but I could send him simple messages. He said that he needed help with little stuff. He was willing to pay me, but I wouldn't let him. I couldn't live with myself if I'd done something stupid like that, forcing an old person to pay me for some days' work. Never. Anyway, I ended up finally meeting and agreeing that I was going to help him, so I'd driven up to his house. His house looked pretty old and dated, as if it was from in the 1950s. It gave me some pretty weird chills. I didn't really like the set or anything. It didn't have cables running to it, nothing. He just had an old truck in like a barn off to the side of the house. I went up to the house, and before I got there, he was already waiting for me on the porch. As I approached him, he said, "Hello, are you here to help?" I said, "Yes, I am. What can I help you with?" He said, "Well, at the moment I'm fine. If you just want to set yourself up, things should be okay." I smiled at him, and he kept on smiling. I walked up to the stairs just to use the bathroom quickly, and he was still smiling at me. That was the first strange thing that I noticed. His house looked very bland. It didn't look as if he had any family from what I could tell. It looked like he had just lived out there all along. Why wouldn't he have any photos of any of his family? Anyway, I decided that I was going to keep on helping him out. After I did my stuff that I needed to do, I come back to him. He was still sitting there, just staring and smiling. It gave me chills, but I thought he was just being friendly. I had some funny smells from the house that gave me a lot of concerns. I ended up going back down to him, and I had to help him with normal stuff like getting changed and stuff. He always gave him weird smiles though when I was doing this. It really concerned me. He also asked if I could help make him dinner. I began helping make him food just before I was about to go home when he said there was one more thing he needed help with for the day. I rejected all his offers to give me money. I eventually went round after he guided me to the back of his house. He said, "I have this old pet I need to bury." Bury? I said, "I don't think I can help with that." He just looked at me a bit sad. I know this was stupid and I should have got out of there. This was never agreed upon. Why would he bury a pet? But he took me out. It was already pretty dark by now. As I looked, he already had a bit of a hole dug. It was really concerning. Why would he already have a sort of hole dug in his garden? Surely he could have done the simple task of putting it in there. He ended up unlocking the door as I went in first. What hit me was an awful smell like I've never smelt before. It was really weird. He didn't have any of the lights on. I went to flip one on quickly and he stopped me. At this point I knew something was up and I was ready to run. Just as I did that, he went up and asked me to help it. Then I saw it. It was wrapped up. This wasn't an animal, it was a human body. It was massive. then I realised what was actually happening. It wasn't that he murdered anybody like I initially thought. He told me this was his wife. I was terrified. I sprinted out of there, got back into my car and got the fuck out of there. I've never went back on Craigslist since. He still messages me to this day. What I think though, more than anything, is that this is just sad. It makes me really upset to think of that's his wife there. But can I believe him? Is that really his wife? I was looking for an old suitcase on Craigslist. I'd always wanted one of those. Do you know the really old vintage ones with all the stamps in it that have stuff in it and it's locked and you don't know? I really like that. I like the thrill of it and the mystery of it all. So, after browsing through Craigslist, I finally found one. It was a man selling one that he said he had bought, but it was too big for him, plus he didn't like some of the vibes he got off it. I thought this was all normal because, I mean heck, the size of it. After talking to the seller for a while, we were even joking about if it was raining I could just put it up and go under that to get out of the rain and close it up or something. Anyway, I spoke to him about where he got it. He was kind of acting a little bit strange when I was talking to him about this through messaging. He wouldn't always answer, or his answers didn't really add up. I thought this was just some old guy that hadn't really known what he got and just needed the money. Maybe his family was making him sell the item, so we agreed that he would end up meeting at my house to drop this off because he had a van. I was really excited and looking forward to him dropping it off. Knowing my family were in, and I was kinda mind to make it a big surprise, so when they come in back from their vacation, I could have this and we could all open it together and see what treasures were inside it. So I waited until it was dark. He hadn't made the time. It was getting really late, like 12 now. I was kind of just sitting in my living room, waiting for him to deliver it. Then eventually, he arrived with a knock on the door. It wasn't like the seller I'd been talking to though. I made 1 or 2 brief phone calls with him, and his voice was different, completely different on the phone. This was just a young guy giving me it. He said, "Hey, I've got my van, do you mind helping me carry it?" "Yeah, sure." I handed over the money and I went to get it. The first red flag should have been his van. It was an old shitty beat up van. It looked really dodgy in a dark red colour. You couldn't really see into the windows either. I helped him carry it, and that was the most shocking part. It was so heavy. I've never felt anything this heavy in my life before. I was sort of going to ask him if he'd ever opened it, but obviously he hadn't. It was still locked. It had all these stamps. I was really excited. We were really struggling till we finally got it into my front door. I left it in my porch, and he just waved and said goodbye, laughing to himself. That should have been the second red flag. Why was he laughing to himself like that? All he'd done is dropped off a thing. Maybe he's just happy to sell it. Why did the guy not sound normal? Why did he laugh? Why was it so heavy? How comes he sounded like a different guy dropping it off than I was actually talking to? Anyway, I was still really excited and I just brushed it all aside. I called my parents because I was so happy and I told them the surprise. I know, I spoilt it. They were all really happy and I was waiting for them to come over the next day. I was sitting in my living room just about to go to sleep when I heard knocking at my door. I went up to my door. Just as I did, it all stopped. That was weird. I was just standing there in the porch looking for whoever it was. At this point, I was terrified that the guy was really sketchy. Being late and on my own, I was paranoid and all. I thought maybe he'd come back. He hadn't. Just closed the door and went up to bed. However, it was when I went to bed that there was more strange stuff. I heard more knocking, then a pop. Shit, someone's broke into my home. They must have broke the door down. Shit. I slowly come out of my bedroom and peered round the corner with my phone at hand. Nothing. There was nobody there. I could see through the window into both of the porch and the front door. They were both still closed. I thought I was just getting paranoid, but I didn't go back to sleep. I said something loud and sarcastic like, well, time for bed. You know how you do when you're paranoid sometimes. I just put my head down on the pillow. Shit, I heard it again. Something had broke out this time. I peered round the corner. My heart dropped. I could have fainted with fear and puked at the same time. A guy had come out of that suitcase in my porch. He was trying to break down the window and get through. I was terrified. I didn't have long now. I was really scared because the window I was in, it would have been really hard to jump out of. I didn't know what to do. I was shouting and screaming, but I had to stop myself after a second. This guy doesn't know what room I'm in. I called the cops. They said they were going to send a car over. I had to hide according to the police and grab a weapon. Weapon? Shit, I'm in my bedroom. I don't have one. Then, just as I was talking to the cops, the door broke. He was in. And what was worse, I could see the reflection. He had a knife on him. I was hiding, and I could hear him searching room to room. Then, just as I was hiding under my bed, terrified, I started to hear footsteps creeping up my stairs. Then he was searching all the rooms. Shit, he's getting closer and closer to my room. He opened my door. My heart dropped again. I was really petrified. I almost fainted again. But luckily he just walked out. He continued the search. I thought the coast was clear after about 5 seconds. I slowly crept out, thinking he'd gone into the bathroom. I looked round. I couldn't see him. I snuck downstairs. I opened the door. Shit, it was jammed. So I just locked myself in the porch, utterly terrified of what was going to happen. At that moment, thank God, cop cars arrived. I could hear the sirens. They had just come in. I waved at them and they at first thought I was a robber. Fuck. I couldn't believe what was happening. Were they going to shoot me? Then I saw the torch was going behind me. Then I could hear he said, "No, drop your weapon." I said, "What? I haven't got a weapon. He's upstairs." They said, "No, drop your weapon." And I heard a knife drop behind me. I looked behind me. This time I did faint. He was standing about 3 foot away with his knife, just about to stab me. I've never come so close to death in my life before that. I'm never going to be the same. I'm just petrified that I could have got killed that day.